Football season is upon us once again, and as every team revs up to start off another campaign, they're all hoping deep down that the guy they drafted or recently signed in free agency will have a breakout season that they were desperately hoping for to increase the strength of their roster and their chance of competing. But who are the most likely candidates to potentially go on that trajectory? I know I'm a little late because the season has technically already begun, but better late than never. Here is one potential breakout candidate for every NFL team in 2024, in my opinion. Let's go division by division, starting with the NFC East. Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Carter. When Philly drafted Jalen over a year ago, it was seen as one of the biggest steals in the draft, just knowing the level of talent and how he fell later than he should have because of off-the-field issues. And I'd say in his rookie year, he showed some good flashes and was a serious disruptor at times. Unfortunately though, thanks to Fletcher Cox often starting in his way, he couldn't get as many snaps as you'd like to see from him, and on top of it all, the Eagles defense, quite frankly, sucked at times, which certainly didn't help with his development either. But now that Fletcher Cox is retired and the Eagles defense has changed up with its coordinator and it's a new season, there's a lot of room for him to cash in on his potential now that he's getting all those extra snaps. If he puts his talent to use, he could very easily be one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL right off the bat, alongside a pretty decent front seven. If there was ever a year for him to break out, it would be this one. New York Giants, Kayvon Thibodeaux. Honorable mentions to Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson, but nobody trusts Daniel Jones, and that Giants offense is going to be hella mid, so I feel Kayvon's a bit of a safer bet here. Thibodeaux showed some good improvement in year 2, heading up to double-digit sack territory, but a lot of it felt meaningless and not very consistent. But here in year 3, he's going to be seen as the third option on that D-line now that there's Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns, serious game wreckers that defenses are going to have to account for. There should be plenty of 1v1 situations for Kayvon this year, and if he put in the work during the offseason and seriously improved, there should be some great room for growth, and for him and this Giants D-line to be a serious problem. Dallas Cowboys, Rico Dowdle. Maybe this one's a bit of a hot take, but I could low-key see Rico having the kind of season that Tony Pollard had a while back when it was him and Zeke in the backfield. A good contrast, a yin and yang, so to speak. Dowdle can take that role that Pollard had by showing off the speed and catching some balls out of the backfield for those open field scenarios, while Zeke takes care of those short yardage and goal line situations. Dallas have a relatively good offense, and there will be a lot of opportunities for him to get touches and show some serious development as a player. Washington Commanders, Dorrance Armstrong. Dorrance had some pretty productive seasons the last 2 years on Dallas, but he was often splitting playtime with the likes of Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. But now, here on Washington, he'll be the true starting edge, and they're going to be counting on him to become an elite pass rusher for them after trading away Chase Young and Montez Sweat. He's in a defense he's familiar with, and there should be plenty of 1v1s with the likes of Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen being a threat up the middle. This could be a great year for him and the Commanders to reinvigorate a defense that desperately needs to show improvement. On to the NFC North, starting with the Chicago Bears. It may sound a little absurd just because he's a rookie quarterback, but I'm going Caleb Williams here. Caleb has the opportunity to get off to one of the fastest starts in a career ever with the type of offense that's behind him. He's got weapons on weapons on weapons, so if he just plays up to how you'd expect and he shows that steady improvement throughout the year, there's no reason why he shouldn't have a great season and potentially break out right from year 1. With the talent he has, he almost looks like Rodgers and Mahomes out there sometimes, with the miracle plays, with the cannon of an arm. This guy has all the tools necessary to be successful right from day 1 in his career, and I would not be shocked in the slightest if he makes the most of it. Green Bay Packers, Jayden Reed. And I swear I'm not just saying this because of the game he had as of this recording yesterday against Philly. I was always kind of the mindset that he could be in for a great year. You could also plug in like Christian Watson or even Romeo Doubs here as well. The number 1 Green Bay wide receiver situation is wide open, but I'm really liking Jayden Reed right now. There's been a lot of talk that he's shown some great improvements with Jordan Love during the offseason, and I thought their connections during last season were nice, especially towards the late portions of the year. often finding that connection in the end zone. He's got good top-end speed as well. I like the hands. I could see him or Christian Watson perhaps having a seriously dominant year, so long as Jordan Love isn't down for like the rest of this year with a bad injury. Bless up. Minnesota Vikings, Dallas Turner. Now, disclaimer, he is a rookie, and I don't even know if he'll be starting to begin this year, but over time, we could see some serious development with this young player. This Vikings defense is taking a completely different direction with Brian Flores now as the defensive coordinator, and he might get the best out of this guy even if he's a rotational player. And also, at the end of the day, he was seen as one of the highest rated defensive prospects in this draft class. Many people thought he'd be the first one off the board, in fact. And with no Danielle Hunter there, and the Vikings trying to find a new identity on that side of the football, there should be plenty of opportunities to not only become a full-time starter, but perhaps be the leader of this new generation on the D-line. Detroit Lions, Jameson Williams. It feels like we've been waiting for this man to break out for 3 years now, and if it's not this year, it's probably never gonna happen. But this might be his best opportunity yet. The Lions are looking for a true wide receiver too, a good counterpiece to Amon-Ra St. Brown. And he definitely has the talent and the top end speed, and supposedly he's supposed to be more of a focal point in the offense this year. If he can cash in on those opportunities, the Lions could have one hell of an offense. Now on to the NFC South, starting with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I'm going with Zion McCollum. This third-year corner has a major opportunity to establish himself as a true starting outside corner on Tampa Bay. He's familiar with Todd Bowles' system now, and they recently got rid of Carlton Davis, which means they're looking for a new guy to line up on the outside and be a staple piece of the defense. Opportunities will be plentiful. He's well acclimated to the league at this point. He's got good physical traits. He has all the tools to make it possible. It's just all on him at this point. And there will be pressure for sure, because if he doesn't step up, there's going to be a pretty obvious weakness on this team, thanks to the lack of depth they have at the cornerback position. New Orleans Saints, Rashid Shaheed. How I see it is the Saints don't really have a true number 2 right now at wide receiver. I feel like it's still up in the air. They need a dual threat alongside Olave, and Shaheed has a lot of the tools and the talents to be that type of player. Someone that's dynamic in a lot of ways. Outside of his speed and his ability to contribute in the passing game, we've seen him look good on special teams. Not to mention that he can even take some balls out of the backfield in a Deebo Samuel-like role. If they get him even more involved with that offense, I think he could truly thrive in New Orleans and help this team be something more than mediocre. Carolina Panthers, J.C. Horn. Feels like the easy way out just knowing the talent he possesses. We've already seen some flashes here and there, but unfortunately, he's been very unlucky with injury history so far, only playing more than 10 games once in 3 years. He was highly regarded coming out of college, and I could very easily see him being one of the better young defensive backs in the league if he could actually get some reps, and I'm hoping that this is the year. Atlanta Falcons, Drake London. Easy pickings here. The Falcons drafted him high a couple of seasons ago, and he's shown very good results so far. 866 and 905 yards receiving is nothing to scoff at, but just knowing the mediocre to below average quarterback talent he's working with, there's so much room for those numbers to go up and for him to be a truly dominant wide receiver 1. This is the right time for it, you know. Kirk Cousins is under center now, who is a very competent quarterback, who's made a living off of helping some of these young wide receivers get off to hot starts in their careers. If both of these guys stay healthy, he should very easily be eclipsing 1,000 yards, no question. There's way too much talent there for it to not happen. And wrapping up the NFC West. The LA Rams, Jared Verse. Verse may be a very young player, but he should have a lot of opportunities to get some meaningful reps very early on in his NFL career. Now that there's no Aaron Donald, the Rams will be looking for their next guy they can depend on to wreck game plans, and Verse has a lot of the skill sets and the physical attributes necessary to make something like that happen. In just 2 seasons at Florida State, he racked up over 29.5 tackles for loss and and 18 sacks. He was one of the better defensive players, and he was taken off of the board so late in round 1 because of the explosion of offensive players. It feels like the Rams got a steal here, and he could very easily be a good transition from the Aaron Donald era. Seattle Seahawks, Jackson Smith-Njigba. JSN was highly regarded coming out of college, and he showed some good flashes in his rookie year on Seattle. But unfortunately, he was running into a situation where it was very clear he'd be wide receiver 3 at the start of his career. But now, here in year 2, I think he'll have more opportunities for targets, as a guy like Tyler Lockett is just getting older, didn't look as good last year. They're going to need someone else to step up and run those routes over the middle to get those clutch yards. When it's not DK over the top, they'll be looking for that guy. I'm expecting him to get a lot of targets and to take a pretty big jump up compared to last year. San Francisco 49ers, Jawan Jennings. I like Jawan as the number 3 wide receiver on this team. He's a guy that you can forget about and very easily get open over the middle. And now that poor Ricky's not going to be playing after nearly losing his life, he's going to get some guaranteed good touches this year. And I feel like there will be moments where the 49ers take their foot off the gas for guys like Debo and Ayuk and McCaffrey just to keep them fresh for the postseason later on. And that's when Jawan Jennings can step in and get a lot of targets. I think he takes a step up and we see that yardage go up significantly. Arizona Cardinals, Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, no duh, right? This is one of the most talented wide receiver prospects in recent NFL history. Marvin Harrison Jr. could be an absolute beast right from the start, and the Cardinals don't have a lot of ridiculously good players at wide receiver, so he's going to very easily become Kyler Murray's new favorite target. And I can almost see him playing a role that D-Hop did when he first joined Arizona. Remember how sick that connection was between him and Kyler? I think Kyler's going to be slinging it to Marvin Harrison all day long. There will be targets aplenty, and we're going to see exactly why he was drafted as high as he was. Now on to the AFC, starting off with the East and the New York Jets. Maybe this is going to be seen as a bit of a hot take, one that doesn't make all that much sense, but I'm going Garrett Wilson. I get it, he's only in year 3, he already has back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, and he's clearly one of the better wide receivers in the NFL already in his young career, but how I see it is, he put up back-to-back 1,000-yard years with bums at quarterback. With a guy like Aaron Rodgers, you can truly exploit that talent to its maximum potential. You can get the most out of him. We could see him be more productive, more targets in the end zone, well above 1,000 yards even. There is no way he can't unlock another gear with a guy like Aaron Rodgers there throwing him the football. I just refuse to believe this is the limit. I could see him going from just a 1,000-yard talented receiver to all pro level this year. The potential jump is right there, and it all depends on Aaron Rodgers' health. Miami Dolphins, Chan. Dude already broke out. He's a monster, but he could very easily take it to the next level if he can stay healthy. I mean, he only played 11 games last year, but got 800 yards on the ground and 11 total touchdowns. Now imagine a full season, all while Raheem Mostert is getting older and is likely to see less touches. If he plays a whole season, fantasy owners are going to have a mess in their pants. New England Patriots wide receiver room. Yes, this is very, very vague, but I could see a world where any one of these guys could truly claim the mantle as number 1. The Pats have been searching for that guy for what seems like years now, and hopefully they can find it in this new era with Jacoby Brissett and eventually Drake May later down the line. You're looking for one of these guys to establish themselves with a dominant season. With all those young players, it's almost certain that one of them is going to play well and show the flashes that you're looking for heading into your future in this rebuild. The most likely candidates in my eyes would be Demario Douglas, Jalen Polk, or Javon Baker. If one of those 3 guys don't dominate, I'd be very disappointed. Buffalo Bills, Keon Coleman. You could also throw in Shakir here as well, but it seems like they're pretty high on Coleman. They made a trade so they could get him in the draft, and from what I've heard, he's going to have a pretty good involvement in the offense early on in his young career. He's got some swag to him, and he's got a skill set that even has Josh Allen being left in awe. He's underrated, 6'3", 215, and the Bills are looking for a new favorite target for Josh Allen. With all the talks about him and everything else that we know, The stars are aligning perfectly for him to have a breakout year in year 1 at Buffalo. Onto the AFC North. And with the Baltimore Ravens, let's go Zay Flowers. I'm expecting the number of targets to go very much up for Zay Flowers. There's no more OBJ. From the looks of it, it seems like Mark Andrews may be a little bit less involved with the offense as well. I think there's a lot of room for this guy to be the primary playmaker through the air, just like what we saw last year, but to an even greater extent now that he has NFL experience under his belt. With his dynamic speed in the open field, and the fact that Baltimore's receiver room is still so unestablished, I would be very surprised if he doesn't at the least crack the 1,000 yard mark. Cincinnati Bengals, Chase Brown. I personally liked what I saw from him in limited playtime for the Bengals last year. They seemed to rely on him a decent bit, even with Joe Mixon there, to catch some balls out of the backfield. He got some good touches, found the end zone a few times, and now his competition is Zach Moss. And while Zach Moss is certainly a good player, he could very easily be overtaken for RB1. From what I've heard during training camp, it seems like they're going for a 50-50 approach in terms of touches, and just knowing how familiar Chase Brown already is with this offense, he might be able to leapfrog Zach Moss early on and never look back. Pittsburgh Steelers, Joey Porter Jr. I'd say Joey had a solid rookie season. Not the most spectacular we've ever seen from a DB, but pretty good overall, allowing only a 47% completion percentage against receivers that were throwing the ball his way, and he had 1 interception on top of it. But also remember, he only started 11 games last year. Now he is a true CB2 on this team. He's got a good year of experience under his belt to help him become a bit more well acclimated to being an NFL DB, and I think he's in a good place in Pitt, where there's a lot of good veterans who can help teach him the ropes, as well as good coaching as well. Pittsburgh are known for their defense, and I think he takes it to the next level this year. Cleveland Browns, Jerome Ford. Last year, in the absence of Nick Chubb, Ford proved to be a good workhorse back for this Cleveland team. Nick Chubb may be coming back, but he won't be ready right off the bat. It'll take him a while to ramp it up, and now that Kareem Hunt is out of the picture, there's more room for Ford to get some touches. He'll be a well-established RB2 even when Nick Chubb comes back, and he's probably not going to get as many touches as he once did before, at least not until he's truly healthy and he feels more confident in himself, and even then, he may not ever be the same. There's room for Jerome Ford to have a permanent mark on this offense. The Browns' offense isn't exactly spectacular. They depend on their running backs a lot, and I think Ford, as a very young player, is in a great spot to continue to show improvement. Jacksonville Jaguars, Brian Thomas. I really liked Brian coming out of college, and I think landing in Jacksonville is a good place for him, where they don't have a true elite number 1 wide receiver. It's not going to be easy to get touches, because Christian Kirk is a clear favorite wide receiver of Trevor Lawrence, and they just signed Gabe Davis as well, but at the same time, I feel like he has a lot of potential to very easily surpass them and become the new favorite target. He's pretty tall. He's got a good height advantage over Christian Kirk, which will be good for looks in the end zone. And a guy like Gabe Davis, while good, is known for his inconsistencies. Brian Thomas could be the best of both worlds and could very quickly earn the respect of Trevor Lawrence and become a great connection for years to come. Tennessee Titans, Tyjae Spears. Now that Derrick Henry is out of the picture, the power run approach is dead for the Titans. And while they did pick up Tony Pollard, and he'll certainly be a significant part of their offense, I don't think it'll be all that hard for Tyjae Spears to find the field. They drafted this guy, they're a big fan of him, and they're definitely going to give him more of a workload in year 2. And just knowing that Tony Pollard isn't the greatest at finding the end zone, this might be the guy they turn to a lot in those scenarios. He may be kind of small himself, but he runs aggressively, and he's not afraid to literally hurdle you if he has to. You need someone who runs angry, and you need someone who can be a part of the pass game, and he checks off both of those boxes very well. For those moments where Pollard comes out of the game because he's tired, don't be surprised if Tyjae makes a pretty good difference for a Titans team that's trying to find their new identity on offense. Houston Texans, Derek Stingley. This guy's highly skilled already, and he had 5 picks last year, but he's in a similar scenario to JC Horn, where he just can't seem to stay on the field, only playing 9 games and then 11 games respectively in his career so far. He hasn't even come close to playing an entire season, and he put up 5 freaking picks last year. He's seen as one of the best young cornerbacks in the league, and if he has a chance to fully express that skill for an entire season on a relative and most likely competitive Texans team, he's going to catch a lot of eyes and potentially develop into one of the best cornerbacks in all of football. Indianapolis Colts, Anthony Richardson. I personally am not the hugest fan of Richardson, but this is an exciting year. The Colts had a bit more than we all thought after their performance last year, and he was only a part of it for 4 games before going down with an injury. And during that time when he was playing, there were some good flashes that were worth getting excited about. He's got a great arm, he didn't make too many bad choices, he's got the height, he's got the speed as well, and I think him and Jonathan Taylor together for an entire season, plus a wide receiver core that is relatively young, could be pretty damn dangerous if he figures it out and shows progression. Again, because he didn't play a lot of reps in his rookie season, there's a lot to prove, but there's also a lot of room for the hype factor to go literally to the moon and back. And finally, we have the AFC West, starting with the Denver Broncos. And for them, I'll go Jaleel McLaughlin. Javonte's the main guy in Denver, but he did get hurt last year, and when McLaughlin came in, he had a couple of good showings for this team, putting up 410 rushing yards and 31 catches. He's one of those small but speedy players that gives off flashes of Darren Sproles. That's been a comparison I've seen a lot online, and it makes sense considering that Sean Payton is the coach for this team. He likes those Swiss Army knife type of running backs, and McLaughlin could be that type of dude. And just knowing Javonte may not have the same explosiveness anymore might just mean that we see McLaughlin get involved a lot, especially in those third down passing scenarios. I could see him being a pretty decent security blanket for a rookie Bo Nix. LA Chargers, Ladd McConkey. The wide receiver product out of Georgia is in a great position to be impactful for this Chargers team right off the bat, as they have no help whatsoever in their wide receiver room. It's never been more uncertain since Justin Herbert entered there. There's no Keenan Allen anymore, and that's a big hole that needs to be filled. A guy that got a lot of targets. Ladd could be that guy out of the slot in like those 5 to 10 yard scenarios where you need a first down. I could see his number being called a lot this year. And just knowing the competition is DJ Chark and Josh Palmer, I'd feel pretty good about him being the new potential WR1 in LA. Vegas Raiders, Zamir White. You know, I thought Zamir White made some good progressions last year in spite of lining up with Josh Jacobs in his way. This guy is a big, strong running back that is not afraid to just bulldoze right over you. This guy is a beast, and I think on this current Raiders team, he's gonna get a lot of touches. The offensive line over there is one of the better ones in the league, and things are pretty uncertain with the pass game. Gardner Minshew, not the greatest starting QB to have. His number is going to be called quite a bit, and I think he'll make some good use of it, just knowing the talent he has and the physical attributes. And finally, for the Kansas City Chiefs, I'll go with a tie between Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. Again, I know I'm late with this video. We already saw what those two can do. They're probably going to be an important part of this offense, but it was obvious heading into the season that was likely going to be the case. How I view it is Travis Kelce keeps on getting older, and his role in this offense is slowly going to fade away as he contemplates retirement by the week. They need to find new weapons in the post-Kelce era, and now's the time to figure that out. Rice was already a favorite target of Mahomes last year, and he should see even more of a volume with passes coming his way, now that he has more experience under this belt, and this offense isn't as confused. But don't be surprised if Xavier Worthy gets that nod instead. I don't know how the hell the NFL let the Chiefs get their hands on this guy, but they're in for a world of trouble now. With that speed, he is basically just the new Tyreek Hill. We saw some samples of it in week 1 already, how he could take balls out of the backfield or so easily take the top off of a defense. People are quick to forget how scary the Chiefs were when Mahomes was just throwing darts to Tyreek. Xavier Worthy just might be their solution to that. But like with all these other candidates, time will tell. Let me know what you think about my picks down in the comments below and who you think is in for a breakout season. And of course, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more NFL content.